to the registrar and they have to count them. Does that make sense? It is a load of crap, Marcia. Mine hasn't been accepted either. It's wrong, Tanya. They said the districts do not reflect the ballots. Yeah, that's just the precincts who who actually physically brought their ballots into the registrar's office. That does not mean that they were counted. Marcia, whenever you mail in your ballot, it's going to be hand counted, and from what I could tell, it was at least 5 touches. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, well, maybe more, 6, 7. And then I'll tell you what really disturbed me. The only restricted access room was where they were putting the ballots that were already done being counted. That's the only restricted access room that I saw. Yeah, seriously, it's absolutely insane. You know, Johnny, I feel like the way that they're actually counting them, the ones that they're counting there, was sound. They were following a process and they had checks and balances. It was super wonky, like the fact that they didn't have supervision in each room, and the fact that they didn't have like, okay, David, I see your text, but I can't actually read it while I'm on live. So I would have liked to see supervision in the room or some kind of accountability or cameras or something. I mean, it was super lax for what you would think of as a something that's so important to us, right? You would think that they'd be on camera the whole time that they're working there. Pan's not a winner of anything. They're just saying that he got the most votes out of the primary, and that's because it's such a big difference, and I don't know why they would announce him as the winner. Maybe they're following the old school policy where they thought that they had the majority of votes. I think there will be surprise upsets because there's a big difference in the mail-in ballots versus the day of, especially if you're campaigning all the way up to the day of. Yeah, it is absolutely insane. I'm not super confident in their speed. I'm not super confident in their security. But I do feel like for the process that she showed us, it was pretty sound as far as, like, I don't think that there is, like, a huge amount of fraud taking place in that building. I don't think that it's as secure as it should be. And I also think that it's going to be as slow as molasses waiting for the results to come in. And that's the part that's driving me nuts because people are asking me questions. Hey, Jay. People are asking me a lot of questions about, like, what we should do, and people are freaking out and they want to move out of California. I'm like, the vote counts aren't even in. Like, let's not overreact. Let's wait the 30 days and find out what the actual results are. I mean, they don't even have a third of the ballots counted, so it's really, really difficult to know. Yeah, we should have citizens watching. If there's a citizen group that can show up and watch portions of the day, I think it would be great accountability. I told her I would prefer to see a better workflow too, but I don't know that we can redesign their whole system. And on top of all this, they have to start getting ready for the November election, which is going to be even bigger than this, and they have to do the exact same process. We're not going to know for a month in the November election either. At my polling station, there were people checking to make sure the envelopes were signed and dated before you were able to put them in the ballot box. Yeah, Elizabeth, that's right. They have to be signed and dated on the outside, and then they scan that outside envelope 3 times. One to take a picture of the signature, one to sort it the first time, and one to sort it the second time. They have to do 2 different sorts on the same machine. I really don't get it. But that's what they're doing, and then they hand check every signature against your registration signature. So I really think that they're trying to do their due diligence. They're touching these ballots and verifying like a bunch of different ways. So I wasn't as concerned. Like, I felt better about that part of it. I feel like their end product of their count is going to be good. It's just going to take an extremely long time to do it. Are candidates conceding losses yet? I sure hope not, Ken. That would be a huge mistake. To concede a loss when only a third of the ballots are counted that's a terrible mistake. Yeah, the media is jumping on board because maybe they don't understand that there's so many ballots left. I mean, their reporting said 100%, but that's just the precincts they got ballots back from. That's not the precincts that they've counted. Okay, so in November you'll go and watch, Marcia. You'll be one of the citizen watchers. It is a nightmare, Johnny. I'm not saying those voting machines are perfect that by any stretch of the imagination, but at least they were calculated the same day. Yeah, there's potential for being on the November ballot. How irrational would it be for me to say that with a third of the ballots counted that I'm just bowing out? That wouldn't happen. That's completely irrational, and I don't think any of the candidates should do that. Yeah, I agree, Tanya. So Scott and I were there at the registrar's office. Sorry, I'm reading the comments and it's so funny. We were there at the registrar's office for like an hour and a half. And the whole time she kept saying like, "Oh, sorry, it's lunch. That's why no one's working." But it was a long time for lunch, and everyone was moving around like typical state worker. It was like nonchalant, like moving through the building. Everything was sort of slow paced, and I'm like, "You guys don't understand. We need to know the results. Like, why are you moving like slugs and taking an hour and a half lunch?" Okay, I do too, Yvonne. I don't know. I don't know about Travis Allen. The problem with his race is that only 5 counties are like this. So for a statewide race, the results are probably mostly quantified. Although 200,000 is a big bump, he's down by like 700,000 votes. So he would have to get all the votes in California plus like a lot more. So I don't know if that's going to help Travis at all. It might make a difference in our race. I don't know if it'll make a difference in any of the statewide races. Exactly, Elizabeth. I'm totally right there with you. I'm disgusted. The only reason the media covered the fact that there's so many ballots not counted is because their DA plant and their sheriff plant aren't getting the votes. Like Scott Jones and Anne Marie are way ahead. So they're like, there's still a ton of ballots to count. Don't count these guys out. That's why. But for like Scott's race where he's a write-in, they didn't even announce that he ran or that he's going to be on the November ballot. They just said McCarty won. And then like for our race, I haven't heard anything on the news about it. Except for, the only thing you would hear is like congratulating Pam. They're not even going to talk about the person who comes in second. We really need to get our media to pay attention to what the citizens are concerned about. Yeah, Jude, that's exactly what I told Scott too. I think if they were playing 4D chess, they just failed hard. Anyway, that's a whole nother topic. So just for those of you who just popped on recently, went on a little adventure. Oh, thank you, Elizabeth. Just if you get any flack, just take it down for a couple months and then we can put them back up. But yeah, I appreciate that. So we went to the registrar's office. It was a fun little adventure. Not exactly what I was looking forward to doing today, but when I woke up and there were no result changes, I got really concerned. So I wanted to see the process. The only ballots they've counted so far are the ones that were mailed in previous to the election day, the ones that came on election day, and the ones that are still coming in the mail because you could postmark it on election day have not even been touched. There's at least 220,000 ballots, but there's still some coming in, so it could be even more than that have not even been processed. So if you're seeing that your ballot has not been accepted yet, it's probably because you turned it in day of or because you turned it or you mailed it in. So if that's the case and you're not seeing it as counted, that's why. And they have up to a month to make this happen. And from what I can tell, they're planning to take every single minute of that month. It's such a slow, arduous process where there's like 7 or 8 touches on each ballot. Scott's looking for people who look like McCarty. So if you, I guess, look like McCarty, contact Scott. Yes, we do need to stay strong and positive. And if people could stop contacting me and asking me to back another candidate when less than a third of the ballots have been counted, that would be awesome too, because that's not going to happen. I would encourage all the candidates to be patient, which I know is hard to do. Let's be patient and get an actual sort of like statistically viable number before we start bailing on the races. And I don't even think it matters if you conceded and then it turns out you actually won. I don't think that they're gonna not put you on the ballot. It's just confusing for people, and it's been really awkward and frustrating. And we're getting hundreds of questions a day about this process because it's so unintuitive and it doesn't make sense for anybody. Really, they should have just said we won't have the results for a month, and then everybody just wait, and then they release the results when they're actually sound. But that's not how it happened, and I'm not even a little bit surprised that that's the way they operate. So yeah, I don't think that people knew how many uncounted ballots there were, even though I keep telling people for some reason they don't know that they've only counted like a third of the ballots in Sacramento County. 5 counties tested this process this go round, and all 5, from my understanding, have been a complete hot mess. They have to hand count, they have to touch each ballot at least 7 times, and then they're scanning them through, and then they have to compare at least 1% of those to the hard copy ballots, and then any kind of discrepancies they have to go through by hand. And this is, we're talking about every single ballot. So it used to be that everyone showed up on election day, their ballot was counted that day, and so they could get a really good idea of what the totals were going to be. But now it's completely, a lot of words are coming to mind, but none of them are appropriate for live videos. So it's a complete mess. It's like a total cluster, and I don't know if they realize that and they're just being protective so they're not getting blamed for it. But I know that they felt a little bit personally attacked, because I'm sure they're getting it from every which end. If you can imagine how anxious candidates are to find out their vote totals, I know that we are absolutely dying to find out, and we're getting a lot of people who are making not very polite comments, and they're not being supportive, and that's all fine and well. I mean, I'm definitely seeing it, just so you know, but I understand, people don't get what's really happening. So here I am telling you. Only SACB mentioned the ballot issue. No one else has covered it. Yeah, and they only mentioned it, Scott, because their candidates didn't get through. That's the only reason why they acknowledged it. Thank you, Daniel. We miss you. We wish you were on the West Coast. Blockchain. I would love blockchain voting, but I was trying to explain to Scott, because I worked for the state and I audited for the state. First of all, their workflow is horrific, but the more manual labor you have, the more jobs you create. So you talk about creating jobs. There's your job creation from the state. Thank you very much. Apparently the person to blame, the official person to blame, is Deborah Bowen for decertifying all of the voting machines, but I don't know the whole history of that decision. So I think we need to put some political pressure, and I think we need to put it now. This is not going to work. Can you imagine a November race where we don't have the results for a month, and then they trickle in results that aren't valid or that aren't really statistically appropriate, and then they basically call elections before 2/3 of the vote is counted? That's just crazy. Thank you. I hope that I'm the right person for it. We'll see in a month. Apparently it's going to take a month to find out. 51% attack on the network or double spend could cause issues for blockchain technology. Yeah, we can get into a whole discussion of that, but I'm going to go get some work done and continue staying positive and continue pushing like this. I guess I'm urging everyone to be sort of reasonable and just be patient for a beat to find out what the actual results are before everybody loses their minds. Not that that hasn't already happened. Don't move out of California just yet, unless you were upset about Travis Allen, in which case it's probably not going to change the results for him. I know there's still people hopping on, but I'll end the live so that you guys can actually go back and listen to the description of what's going on at the Sac County Registrar's office. I would love to say that we walked in there and everybody was hustling and they were getting a huge amount processed, and that I had total faith that it was going to be